Hey, everybody. It's History Through the Eyes of Faith, and I'm your host, Frank Range Jr., along with Angie Ferris.
Hello.
Can you believe it? It's video, and this is the pod. Can you believe it, Angie?
I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, we're glad y'all are here. Another episode. Producer Wes is real. He's here. He's not going to be on camera, so you don't know if he's here or not.
The snickering is a little bit closer,
But
so
the
you might
snickering
hear
is
it.
closer. So this is our this is it. We're in Studio 41. It's a little different than normal.
Yes.
We don't.
Well, this might be the new normal.
Might be. It's a version. It's a version of the new normal.
Right.
So we are now adding video to History Through the Eyes of Faith. At least for this episode, because it's a big deal.
Yes.
Episode 150. 150 celebration. That's why there's a balloon in the background. And we can look, both of us look, Ange, look at everybody.
Hello.
Hey, it's episode 150. We've got snacks. And also, like I said earlier, this is probably the only podcast, I think. I don't know. I haven't watched all the video podcasts, but I would say this is one of maybe any that I know of where you could potentially see a Bigfoot.
Oh,
See, you saw
so
Bigfoot on this episode. Episode 150. So, Angie, are you excited? You seem a little different.
Different.
Like when we're doing no video, you...
Yeah, well, it's being on camera is a little self-conscious, but I've just got to, I mean, we've done 149 episodes. I've gotten comfortable with that, right? Mm-hmm. So this is, I'll get comfortable with it. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable for me too.
And it's a little different spot. This is not how we usually
sit like this. I'm usually laying down.
Yeah.
I'm usually on my phone.
I usually got my feet propped up.
Got your feet propped up. I've got my phone out. I'm watching a game or something.
And we usually, I usually have on headphones too, so I'm hearing you in the air. So this feels more like we're just talking than we're recording because I don't have it. My subconscious is used to hearing it in my ear. So
yeah, we usually have headphones on, but we don't. But we might at some point in this episode.
Right, we might. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Me too. So
we haven't been together in a long time.
Did you say 3 months?
It's been 3 months since we recorded. You guys.
But when was the last time? Okay, it's been 3 months since we recorded an episode.
Right.
Do you think our fan base is dwindling because of that?
No.
I say fan base. I mean,
no,
listeners.
actually, some people, but that didn't have anything to do with how often we record. I know that we have several new listeners, but we have been consistently, although 2 weeks apart, releasing episodes through that period. So there hasn't been this big period of not releasing because when we recorded 3 months ago, we had a whole bunch in the can, as they say.
Right. Okay.
So they haven't. Our big blip in releasing was back in April or something that we addressed. Well, but they have gotten much more spread out.
Well, I'll say this, and we kind of decided in doing video, we're just kind of talking to each other like we usually do. But because we aren't on video, I will say to the listeners and now viewers, if you've not checked out History Through the Eyes of Faith, this podcast is about history through the eyes of a Christian believer. It's not, we're not talking about, and I say this a lot on a lot of the previous episodes, and you can go back and listen to 149 episodes if you want, at your leisure, whenever. But today we're going to talk about how we got to 150, the content, but we don't talk really about theology. Sometimes it may come up. We just want to capture history through the eyes of a Christian believer and how Christianity is woven through from the beginning of time until present day. And we're doing that chronological. And in 149 episodes, we've gotten up to the 16th century. Is that accurate? Mm-hmm. But we usually start off each episode with about 10 minutes of a little chat, a little catch up, a little get to know each other. So that's what we're doing now. And then we're going to get into the content for episode 150, which you can tell us now. You want to give us a hint of what that's going to be?
It's going to be a big review. A bit, and then with some commentary in there, of looking at the whole arc of history to this point.
And where are we to this point?
Well, just as you said,
well,
the 16th century.
More exact.
The Reformation.
The Reformation.
We're kind of, depending on how you define it, we're either in the middle or close to the end of the Reformation.
Of the Reformation? Mm-hmm. Was that the couch that made that noise?
That was the couch that made that noise. Does that make you happy when the couch makes a noise?
Well, there's just so much potential now. I was just thinking about all the other episodes where we started laughing really hard.
Yeah.
And this one it's different now that we can't do that.
Do you think we can't?
Well, we will, but I don't know how long we can let it get out of control.
It's like we have to, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, and by the way, Angie and I are siblings, if you're first tuning in. And producer Wes is my oldest son. So it's a family event. But we don't really get together that much outside of this recording. I mean, when was the last time I was going to ask you this a second ago. It's been 3 months since we've recorded. When was the last time we were together? Was it
like we saw each other?
It was probably at the house going through the closet.
Yes.
When would you probably know the date of when that was?
Last weekend in July. No, last weekend in August. No. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Like 27th, 20, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So we don't really talk about what day it is while we're recording this.
Yeah.
But you'll get it. It's not a big deal. So stories to catch up on. What do we want to do before we get right into a recap?
Well, we went on a long trip. I was telling Frank, I'm thinking about just releasing a whole nother, some kind of production about the trip because it was 3 weeks, 20 states, 19 states, one other country, 4,500 miles, Tim and I in the car.
Yeah.
Week at the beach included in that.
Yeah, week at the beach.
So there's lots.
Was there any time on that trip that you and Tim got into an argument?
Yes. Not to be discussed on the podcast. No, I mean, that happens. It's life. But it was awesome. So many super cool things.
What year did you celebrate a wedding, marriage this year?
What anniversary?
Yeah.
This year is our 41st.
41st in May.
Yes.
Was your 41st.
Yes.
So yeah, that's good long run. It's a good long run.
And we've been doing lots, and we're starting a renovation at our house.
Yeah.
Big renovation. So that's firing up. Just a couple of weeks, we got all the prep work. I was explaining all of that to Wes.
Well, what's the prep work? You got to empty out the garage and all that?
2 garages. So we have an attached garage to our house that's being converted into a room. And then we have a detached garage that is like a 2-car garage plus a pretty sizable workshop in the back of the garage. And we've lived there 20 years. So there's stuff everywhere. So we've got to
you got to use the detached garage as a garage.
Which Tim parks over there already. So now we're going to add my car to that. So we've got to get 2 cars out there, plus all the things that are in the current garage that we need to keep. So that it's quite a bit. So we've been working weekends on that. We'll be working again for a couple more weekends. So that's the physical prep, but then there's also
the emotional prep.
Replumbing, re-HVAC, getting all of the support system of plumbing, HVAC, and electric ready for the addition. So those have got to be brought up to speed before we add on. It's a lot. And then and it goes on. We have a phase 2 and lots of work.
Mm-hmm. Is there going to be a banquet at some point?
There should be.
A banquet celebration?
Yes.
Well, for me, recently was in Dallas for work. That went very well. Went down to the beach last month or so.
I think you were there right before I was.
With family
or right
and
after I was.
Friends.
Yeah.
I had some friends down there. A lot of fun. And then, managing just life. So that was it. That was the episode today, guys.
Super cool.
So let's I don't know what else to get into right now. As far as stories.
No, that's good. That's great. And other things will come up as we go along. But I have a story that's also prepping for the content. So we're ready for that?
This would be a perfect time for that.
So what is your favorite thing? Not your favorite thing. One of your favorite things to talk about now that you bring up a lot. It has to do with your work. You talk about what you're learning about it, how you're using it.
Oh, ChatGPT? Mm-hmm. AI? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
what?
I've been so excited to tell you this. So here I am.
I use it all the time. I use it for work and personal.
Right. So here I am prepping.
And update to the listeners or viewers. If you're not paying for it, your information is not secure. So know that.
No, that's right. I learned that.
Yeah.
So on this trip, I used it a lot. Like, let's just cut to the chase. I'm not going to ask the search engine. I'm going to ask you, what's the best restaurant here? How's the best way to get there? If I need to do this, how do I do that? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm using it like that. And then, like tour of Boston. How, if I've only got 2 days in Boston, how do I need to spend them? And it asks me, what do you like? History, food, what are you about? Tell it. It tells me what to, okay. So I've been using that. So now we're planning this renovation. And so I'm using it to help me with that. I'm finding some software. It's helping me build a software program that I can use to manage the entire project and all of that stuff. So I'm planning for episode 150, and I'm going to review 150 episodes. And what I want to do, look at his face, y'all. Look at his face. I'm so glad this is on camera.
Well, because I'm sitting here thinking about.
So what I want to do is
summarize 149 like in 5 seconds.
So what I want to do is something on my computer where I can see the info from 150 episodes. What I have on my computer before this is an entire document for every episode that has all the notes
used for your
that I wrote, prepared, dropped into my software.
Yeah.
And used. I have a software that I use for all the episodes. So I'm like, okay. So I just ask old chat. I say.
Now, which one are you using? Just ChatGPT? Like
yes.
OpenAI?
And I was not using the paid version at this point. This was early last week. I asked chat and said, does he let you call him chat? Well, I've decided to. He needs a name.
His name's Chat.
I found out that my daughter's boss calls him like Berta or something, like Rita, something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to call him Chat. Maybe we can come up with a better name. But so I say, can you make a spreadsheet for me of all of the published episodes of the podcast History Through the Eyes of Faith that has the number, the title, the years that it occurred, and a summary of the episode?
Wait, the number, the title, the years it occurred, like what years were covered in that episode?
Yes. And something.
And this is based on your documentation or based on?
No, I'm just asking. I don't know if it can. Like, can you do this?
Can you go out to the internet?
I just said, can you do it? And it says, sure, I can do that. And it goes, and then it comes back and tells me. I said, okay, do it. Whatever. It comes back and tells me that there's not enough information out there. So it's just using the show notes. It's not. I didn't know if
show notes.
I didn't know if it could listen to the episodes. Do you know what I mean? Now I don't know if you've noticed, but our last 6, 8, 10 episodes, I don't know if producer Wes has noticed, the transcript is there on Spotify. And there's summaries, there's chapters. It's creating chapters, and it's telling you can get the transcript, you can get the chapters. So the newer episodes, it's all there. So that's what chat tells me. Like for these, I can. For all those, I don't have it. And it's copyrighted, so I can't get it. And I'm like, well, it's mine. And they go, okay, great. It's yours. If you upload.
Did it give you anybody could have said it's mine?
Well, yes, but I couldn't do what it was asking me to do unless it was yours. Okay, unless it was mine. Because now what it says is I need to upload my product, my software. And I told them I use Notion. I said it's all in Notion. Okay, export from Notion.
Now, when did you start paying? Because now you're giving it to the world.
No, I started paying before this happened.
Okay, good.
Maybe. I think I paid before.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did.
I mean, I don't really know what tangible is going to happen.
Well, there's nothing in those. There's nothing in those notes that isn't published, right?
Right.
Okay. So that's. Yeah. I had that thought before I started with the whole thing, and I'm like, there's nothing anyway. Okay, so I say he gives me all the steps: upload, do this, and at some point in that, okay. So then I realized when he said yes, you can do it, and I'm going to have to upload my Notion. Then I was like, okay, I need to go in to myself. I'm saying I got to go in and clean it up. And I won't get into the details of why, but a lot of times I prepare a whole episode that turns into be in 2 or 3 episodes, and I don't go back and cut it, paste it back into the right number. So one episode might really have 3 episodes in the notes. So I don't have very much time over these couple of days. So every time I have a few minutes, these couple of days, I'm cutting and pasting and getting it all fixed. So
for 149 episodes.
For 149 episodes, which most of them were ready. I would say probably 30% of them were not where they needed to be.
How did you go? I mean, just curious. How would you go back and find the ones that weren't ready? Did you have to open each file?
Yeah, it's a software called Notion that is like a whole management software. You can journal, you can have your calendar. Teams use it for meet. It's a lot like Google Teams, Microsoft Teams, So it's got all it. So I'm just opening the pages. It's in the document. that I use all the time. And I would just look down there and say, okay, this one's still empty. I need to cut it out of that one and erase it out of that one and drop it in this one. And I'm used to doing that. I just haven't been doing good housekeeping because my life's been so crazy this year that there were, the most recent episodes weren't all cut and pasted the right way.
Okay.
So I get that all ready. So now I'm ready and I've got the time I've got set aside. I got about a day and a half set aside to prep for this. And because Chat had told me that he could do it, otherwise it would have taken me
a lot longer,
the whole week to do this. So I'm trusting that he can do it, and I get it all ready and I get ready to upload. And this was at night. And so we start this conversation and Chat's like, do you want it this way? Do you want it that way? And then every time that he asks you how you want it, he repeats, okay, so we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, and is typing it all out. And then we're going to do this. And I'll say, yes. Are you ready? I'll say, yes. He'll say, well, do you want me to add this? And I'll say, yes or no. And so we've been through all this. And so now
that kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah. So here we are late at night. And he says, awesome. I'll now process and rewrite each available episode into a friendly present tense summary, style the header row, and generate your clean, polished episode summaries.xlx. This will take a little time since I'm summarizing 139 episodes because those are the ones, for some reason, he said that's all I had content for. But when it's ready, you'll get bullet point, a chronological spreadsheet starting with episode 2, bullet point, bold-centered headers for a professional look, bullet point, polished 3 to 4 sentence summaries
Nobody
that
knows
read
what
like
you're
show
saying.
notes.
I can't understand what you're saying.
Blank summary fields with no content are available. I just am trying to
we got
convey.
it.
Okay,
We got it.
And he says, I'll send you a link as soon as the file is ready to download. And there's a green check in a box. Okay, and we've been through this several times.
I hope this has a happy ending.
Well, here's the point.
Okay.
So it's a green check, but I don't see any analyzing. I don't see anything thinking. But I'm like, he's got a lot to do. He says he's doing it. Well, I'll go to bed. I stayed up for a couple of hours. Nothing had happened. But I'm like, it's a lot to do, right?
Yeah, he's busy.
Yeah. But it's AI who can summarize one episode in 5 seconds, right? So I'm like, anyway, get up in the morning. There's nothing there. I give it an hour or so. Then I say, how is the progress on the spreadsheet coming? I've learned to talk to Chat like a person. I just say, hey, Chat, how's the progress in the spreadsheet coming? Thanks for checking in. Here's where we are. Check episodes identified and stored, blah, 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 blah. Check years column added, blah, 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 blah. Little operating wheel. Summarization step in progress. I'm rewriting the 139 available episodes into short, friendly, present tense summary. And then there's an hourglass. Next step, once the summaries are done, I'll style the header row and export the final Excel file. Since there are a lot of episodes, this step is the most time intensive. Once it's done, you'll get a clean, polished file you can open right away in Excel or Google Sheets.
Okay, let's go.
Would you like me to generate and share the spreadsheet in smaller batches?
Let's go.
So you can start using part of it sooner or wait for the full file at once. I sit there and I think, okay, I've got today. I don't have tomorrow. I have just today to be ready. I'm going to wait. I said, right now, I'll wait. If I need you to get started before the full file is ready, I will let you know. Perfect. Waiting for the full polished spreadsheet. You will give you the cleanest, most consistent, blah, 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 okay? Hours. A couple hours go by. Nothing. I'll let you, the last thing he said, I'll let you know as soon as it's ready to download. Nothing.
Okay.
Now, in the midst of that, the night before was when I subscribed because it told me you've done all you can do.
For free.
You got to wait another 24 hours before you can do more. And I'm like, I don't have 24 hours to wait. So I subscribed.
Yeah.
So I texted late in the afternoon. I asked Chat, can you estimate when the spreadsheet will be ready? Mm-hmm. Yes, based on the number of episodes. It gives me this whole thing, goes through the whole deal. It says it'll take about 10 to 12 minutes. Would you like me to notify you the moment it's done? So you don't have to keep checking manually?
Yeah. So let's go.
I said, yes, I uploaded the file to you 16 hours ago. So it seems it should have it by now. I should have it by now. You're absolutely right. Given that you provided the file yesterday, you should have your polished spreadsheet by now. The good news is I've already done this and this, and this is what's left. And do you want me to do more polished or speed over extra refinement? I said, speed over extra refinement. I can have it. Anyway, it goes on and on. And the point is,
let's get to it.
I have to reload everything. So I have to get back on my computer and reload. And then I just start saying, do it now. And so he said, here you go. Your spreadsheet's ready. Well, open it up. It's a jumbled up Excel file But in the summary, it's just the first few lines of every page of my notes. I'm like, this is not a summary. So
did we get anything?
So
did
when,
we get
wait.
anything?
So when we get to that point, I said, in looking at the spreadsheet, it looks like I will need more polished narrative style summaries. Can you do that for the first 25 episodes and send it to me so I can drop it in the spreadsheet? He's like, yeah. So Frank, this just goes on and on to where I start saying, do it now. It'll say, are you ready? And I'll say, do it now. And then it says, I've got this. And are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Blah, blah, blah. So the point is, every time it sends me a file, no matter how small it was, it's not summaries. Okay. So I finally jumped to do episode 10 now so that I can see what a summary looks like. Absolutely. Let's do episode 10. So it sends me this great little episode 10 snippet. And I said, sounds good. Please do through episode 25 now. So it sends me that. So then it says, put it in the chart. No, this one happens. I said, yes, do it now. Okay, I'll do this, this, and this. I'll send you the download link when it's ready. I said, you have told me that before, and I haven't got a link until I came back and asked hours later. Are you processing those first 25 now? It says, you're completely light. This is what it says. I've been describing what I will do, but I haven't actually run the processing step yet. Let's fix that right now. Here's what will happen immediately. And it goes through the same bullet points.
And what have we gotten? Because we are doing episode 150 right now, and we're 20 minutes into this.
But you got to hear all this because it's just too good. So we go through all this, and I keep saying I see no action on my end and blah, blah, blah. The point was it could not. It was writing beautiful snippets in the text in the chat, but it could not drop them into a file. It became something different in the file.
Yeah.
And it would get so where we ended up was I figured out that if I just asked for 10 episodes at a time or less, and I don't ask for a file, I get really nice summaries.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth for several times, and we do have all 149 episodes summarized that I'm using for today from ChatGPT. But
well, how could it now do summarize 149
at once?
Yeah.
No.
No,
I'm saying it doesn't know what it can't do.
Right. Well,
and it might be able to do it tomorrow.
No,
okay?
It can't. What right now, like when I'm using it a lot to create content, and if I get it to create a graphic, it'll create the graphic. And there might be one little thing wrong with the graphic that I asked it to create, like a misspelled word. I'm like, please regenerate, check typos. It creates the new graphic. The typos are fixed, but the graphic is now got a thing over here that's different. I'm like, all right, that's close. Let's redo it again, but make sure these things are done. It does it. There's a different thing wrong with it. So I went back and forth with it to one point where finally I asked, what can I do to make this right, to get it correct? And it said, you need to get a human being to do this.
That's great.
That's what it said. Like
I never asked that question.
Can I help you? Can I help you get the right information to another person to create what you want? Because it explained to me why it kept having the problems.
Yeah.
And it's all due because it can't see it. Like it can't see a spreadsheet. It can't see a graphic.
Yeah.
It can tell you what you want and give you a version of it. But if there's a mistake, it can try it again, but then there's a second mistake.
Yeah.
But
and I also found when it did the same thing, like it did 10 episodes and then it did 10 episodes. And then by the next set of 10 episodes, it was getting lazy. I actually said to it seems like you're getting lazy. So I started cutting and pasted, read my actual notes and give me a 3 to 4 sentence, blah, 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 based on what was giving me the result I wanted,
So are we ready to get into
We're so ready, but I just thought you'd enjoy the ChatGPT story.
Well, I've had those pains. I've had those pains.
But I hadn't yet. So I was very happy with my conversation with Chat and realizing what it can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And it might be able to do that tomorrow.
Sometimes I get lucky.
But what was cracking me up the way it was saying, you're absolutely right. I haven't actually started doing it yet. I'm like, well, why do you keep saying that you are? I don't know what that was about. Anyway, so I have a question for you as we get back into our summary.
All right.
You said that history through the eyes of faith in your little intro is looking at history through the eyes of a Christian believer. Right? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, which is what I've quoted you as saying.
I'm not criticizing. That's exactly what it is.
It's always hard for me to explain it.
But here's my question.
All right.
How would that make a difference? If you're wearing the glasses of an eyes of a Christian believer or you're just in history class, how is it different?
You might want to rephrase your question. Like, what do you mean? How is it different?
Well, we're telling people, hey, this is what history through the eyes.
How's history different?
How do you see? What is it that you see differently because you're wearing Christian glasses?
Well, I'll answer it for me.
Okay, that's all I'm asking for.
In doing this podcast with you, we decided to do this in what, 2020? Mm-hmm. 2021?
No, I think we decided in 2019, and we had a recording date, and then the pandemic hit. So we actually started in late 2020 and released in 2021.
Yeah. So when we started doing this, I decided to do this with you because it would be fun for me as a listener and as a host, and to have fun doing it. But it's not my content, it's your content. So what I've learned is that because I consider myself a Christian believer, what it's helped me see history differently than maybe what I learned academically through school. I'm seeing events in history that have a connection to the Christian faith that I didn't realize there was that connection. I didn't realize that God and Jesus and the Christian faith has been instrumental in a lot of world events that go way back. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, I used ChatGPT last week and asked it kind of a theology question, kind of a social question, a issue that's in the news a lot, that's controversial, that I'm not going to get into here, but it's a controversial issue in the news. And I asked ChatGPT if there were people in the past that commented on this particular issue. And it gave me Aristotle, and it gave me Constantine, and it gave me Thomas Aquinas. And I would not have known those people's content had I not been doing this podcast, and who they were and what they wrote and what they said.
And when they were.
And when they were. So things that Aristotle said, Augustine said, St. Aquinas said, directly, in my opinion, are relevant in 2025.
Yes.
But they're being said by other people that are...
As if it was the first time it was ever
said. As if it's controversial, but you're like, no, this has been a topic of conversation for hundreds of years. And it was things talked about before Christ.
Thousands of years, over 1,000 years.
Yeah. And now, so for me, this content has been enlightening. If that answers your question, like, why does it matter, or how does it make a difference?
I wanted your answer. There wasn't an answer. I wanted your answer. I think the other thing for me...
I went to high school with an answer.
Well, the other thing for me was that God really is writing history. Like, this is his story. So when you put those glasses on, what you're doing is looking for that, looking for his thread of redemption, his thread of revelation, his thread of who he is that's revealed throughout history.
Yeah. And there's things I've learned. I mean, go back and we're going to summarize the episodes. I think, we're halfway through this episode, or this part of this episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to start. How about we start now?
Okay. So episode 1 is orientation, which I meant to go back and listen to that before.
I meant to listen to it.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because we would probably both be really surprised by what's on there, like what's said. Because
it was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I had a friend that started listening to the podcast recently and started with that one, and made some comments, and I'm like, man, I need to go back and listen to that.
Comments like what?
Well, just like the purpose of what we were about, how we described it there. Made some comment about, I didn't know you had that resume. That kind of thing. It's like, and I don't really remember everything that's in there.
Yeah.
But we talked about a lot of what we just said.
Wasn't that recorded in August of 2020? Mm-hmm. So it's been over 5 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we probably should go back, listen to that, and add something so that if somebody starts there, they can also hear us in current time, at least as of right now.
Does that mean we do about 30 episodes a year?
We have
release
not done 30 this year. So we were releasing every week for the first 15, 16, maybe even 20 months, 24 months. It's slowed down. But anyway, episode 2 starts with creation.
Okay.
And goes forward. And I don't want this to just all be, this is going to be much more talking back and forth than in the past. I wasn't just going to read all these because it's, yeah, but you can hear what chat says about episode 2. This episode opens the story with Genesis framing creation as purposeful and ordered by a good God. We consider what it means to live as image bearers, people made to reflect God's character and how we steward creation and treat one another. The conversation emphasizes how the Bible gives us a lens for making sense of a broken world without losing hope. Now, see, that's chat getting a little devotional. A little bit more than we probably did.
No,
I taught him to cut back on that.
Well, chat is saying, "Oh, this is a Christian thing. I've got to talk in Christian language."
Right. So later on, I dropped the devotional. I figured out if I tell him
this is not a devotional.
Right. It invites listeners to receive creation not just as a doctrine, but as a calling to worship, work, and rest under God's care. It does not do that. That's what chat says it does, but that's not what it does.
Right.
Anyway, we start with the characters of the Bible. We talk about Adam and Eve, and then we go up through Cain and Abel, and then we talk about Noah and the ark. That's episode 2. No last names on the ark. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there weren't any last. You didn't need a last name.
No, it was just Noah. So that goes through Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, how they populate the earth, and then we're into Abraham.
Can I make a comment for people that might just be the first time checking out History Through the Eyes of Faith?
Yes.
We start this out of the Bible in creation.
Right. We're starting with the beginning of time, and we believe that the Bible teaches us that's creation. So we just start with creation.
But we're not correct. But when we talk about those names that you just talked about, at some point, some episode in here, we also talk about the fact that there's other things going on outside of what's happening in the story of the Bible.
When we get to that, yeah.
When we get to that. Is there any of that in those names? Do we ever talk about? No, we don't.
That really starts with Abraham. I think it's really when we get, so when you're looking at the Bible, you have the creation story, Cain and Abel, then Seth, and then who's the next child of Adam and Eve, because Cain kills Abel, and then obviously Cain is a bad guy. So they need, or a guy that's not seeking God's will. So they have another child who is the faithful follower, and the descendants come through him. Okay.
Yeah.
So Noah is the descendant of Seth. And at one point in one of these episodes, we get into the whole line of descendants and all that kind of stuff.
I have a question. Now, this is a recap of 150. Probably not a good time for this question.
Well, then why are you asking it?
I don't want to forget it.
Okay, we'll see. I might table it.
I'm not going to, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to
We're going to get little pieces of pepperoni and put them, or whatever that is, and put it on the table for every question. We're
I think that's
tabling. Salami, we're tabling.
We've got a nice charcuterie, some vegetables, fruit, cookies.
Okay. So what's your question?
I don't think I'm going to ask it now.
Why?
I'll ask it. Okay, great. This is some good content. I'll ask this question to disrupt this whole thing.
Well, I might just put it on the table.
I was in church a month or two ago, and we got into the story of Cain and Abel, or something that happened back in Genesis. Okay, that was being quoted. The scriptures that we were reading had that story in there. Who are the moms?
Eve.
And who else?
Are you talking about, like, we haven't got, are you talking about after, like, who did Adam and Eve's
who did
children?
Cain and Abel have kids with?
There's a whole lot of stuff about that, but the Bible does not tell us that. That's the answer. The Bible doesn't tell us that.
Yeah.
Straight up.
No, they don't.
But you can go back and figure.
That's what I'm looking at.
But there are things in there in between the lines that people take to mean things, and that's not the topic of this podcast.
Based on your education, which is a master in philosophy and religion, right?
A master in Christian education, undergrad philosophy and religion.
Okay. So just for the record, folks, they don't tell us, but there were some women in there.
Well, there are things said in Genesis that I'm not going to get into all that.
That's
right.
what I'm saying. I'm not getting into it.
There's like, yeah.
We'll table that to a sub conversation.
Well, and
I don't know if it matters. I just read when I read like the creation story and Cain and Abel and these descendants, and then they had this kid. I'm like, well, who is the women?
here's what I will say.
If they just created one woman, when did they have a daughter? Or somewhere else have a daughter? If God created a woman,
Yeah, well,
and
it's
they had
totally
two boys,
possible.
and they had two boys,
It's totally possible they had girls that were not recorded. Okay,
it has to be.
It has to be. Okay, so yes, not the topic of this podcast.
Okay, all
The
right.
point that we're trying to do is trace in the lineage from Adam and Eve up. Okay. So
Yeah.
the Bible does that. It shows you so and so, so and so, so and so. And we end up with Abraham. And then Abraham.
Which is about what episode?
Okay. So Noah is episode 3 and the flood and all that. Episode 4 is Melchizedek. Who knew? Melchizedek comes to visit Abraham. So now we're in Abraham's
And
story.
Melchizedek, there's a theory about Melchizedek.
Okay. So here, I'm going to read you what chat says about episode 4. Angie and Frank review the timeline leading up to Genesis 14, where Abram rescues Lot from captivity with 318 trained men. I don't know, it was 318 anyway. They focus on Abraham's encounter with Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of God Most High, who blesses Abram and brings out bread and wine. Abram responds by giving Melchizedek a tenth of everything, raising questions about tithing and priesthood before the law of Moses. That's the point. He's a priest of the Most High God, but we haven't even got to the law of Moses with the 10 commandments that God tells about priests.
So there's a little bit of mystery with Melchizedek.
So the episode explores why Melchizedek is significant and how he is later mentioned in Psalm 110 and Hebrews as a type of Christ.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
I learned that. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
so now then we get to Abraham's kids, Isaac and Jacob and his 12 sons in episode 5, and we titled it Weak Eyes. Do you remember why we titled it that?
We guys?
Weak Eyes.
Weak eyes. Oh, I remember why I called weak eyes.
It's a funny episode, y'all.
Because I think it said that was a scripture verse, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's describing Leah. Remember Jacob goes and lives with Laban because he wants to marry Rachel, and he's like, give me 7 years and I'll give you Rachel. And then he does his 7 years, and then he wakes up because they just bring the bride into the tent after it's dark, and he wakes up in the morning and it's Leah, and he goes, Leah had weak eyes, which we think was a way of saying she wasn't a looker. Right? She couldn't see.
I was thinking of something else.
No, that was it. Anyway, so it's a funny story. Good episode. So now we're getting down through Jacob and his 12 sons. One of his sons is Joseph. Next episode.
He had an amazing
life. That's
Technicolor
episode 6.
Dreamcoat.
Joseph in Hebrew slavery in Egypt. And Joseph is sold into slavery and then ends up saving his people because bringing them.
Okay, I want to insert this.
Okay.
What episode is Joseph?
Episode 6, and the name of it is God Meant It for Good.
God meant it for good.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you're a new listener, as we're getting into this is a lot of Bible. A lot of Bible in how many episodes?
About 15.
15 episodes.
Maybe 20.
The Bible, 20. Well, New Testament's like...
The Old Testament's about 14 episodes. Then we have the time in between, and then we have 5 or 6 on the New Testament. The
time in between, we talk about what's going on in the world.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Okay, I'm just... If somebody's checking out this episode right now for the first time, History Through the Eyes of this podcast, History Through the Eyes of Faith, at this point, they may be thinking, oh, this is just a Bible podcast. It's not.
We're tracing throughout history.
And we're in...
So that's what I was going to tell you. The dates start showing up as far as chat's concerned on no last names of the ark. Noah to Abraham, they're saying is circa 2000 BCE. Abraham and Isaac, they're still putting 2000 BCE, but you get to Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 sons, it's 1900 to 1700 BC. And then God Meant It for Good, Joseph in Hebrew slavery is 1700 to 1300. So we're zooming more on a particular time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the reason we titled it God Meant It for Good is it's a long, beautiful story. Listen to the episode. But at the end of it, Joseph's brothers, when Isaac dies, Israel dies, who was Jacob gets renamed Israel. When he dies, the brothers are like, oh my gosh, now Joseph's going to get back at us for selling him. And Joseph tells, no, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. That's at the end of the book of Exodus. Okay. So that's why we titled that. And that's also what we're about in this podcast.
Yeah.
Is looking about how God is bringing the good out of the evil, right? Mm-hmm. So that's happening. Anyway, so that's episode 6. Then episode 7, we entitled Sounds Like Summer Camp. Because it was about Moses and the Exodus. And I think it was all the plagues that you thought sounded like summer camp. Well, I think
it was just the traveling and the camping and the plagues and the moving. And
so that was around 1300 BCE. And then episode 8, this is a fun one because that's Sinai.
10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments. Y'all want to go back?
I saw Mount Sinai was in the news last week.
It was. They're putting in a
resort.
And people are kind of irritated about that. And I can see why. Yeah. I'm not saying I have an opinion, but yeah. Anyway, okay.
It sounds like something from the Righteous Gemstones.
It says, the giving of the 10 Commandments and how they reveal God's character. They discuss Moses receiving the tablets, breaking them after Israel's sin. And remember that? You didn't know he broke them? That was kind of funny. That was a cliffhanger. Including the moment when Moses' face shone after speaking with God. And the episode also describes the detailed instructions for building the tabernacle, the significance of the veil.
We went through a lot of tabernacle instructions.
Yeah, we did. So that's episode 8. Episode 9, The Spy Who Did Not Love Me. That is the spies. When they're after the Exodus, they're in the wilderness.
Woman in there?
Huh?
Is there a woman in there with the spies? Or am I thinking New Testament?
It was because there is later a woman, but not in this story. Okay. So this is when, and this is what people talk about a lot. They think that they just wander around and never get to the promised land, but they go to outside the promised land, send spies in to check it out. 10 of the 12 spies come back and say, no way, we can't take those people. And then they get sentenced to 40 years of wandering in the wilderness till everybody under the age of 20 dies because they didn't trust God to bring them into the promised land. Okay. And that's why we say the spies who did not love me, because the spies who sent in came back and they didn't think God could do it for them. Right.
Yeah.
Episode 10 was straight up GOT. Game of Thrones.
Straight up Game of Thrones.
And that was because that was all the stuff happening as Joshua was leading Israel across the Jordan River to the promised land. The episode highlights the timing of the crossing, the 10th day of the first month, the placement of the stones, and how this, and that's where Rahab's story comes in. And Rahab's the one you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Because the
Rahab kind of went
Jericho. Yeah, she marked.
She hid some people.
She harbored the spies that spied out Jericho, and then they saved her. Then she and her family were the only ones who survived the destruction of Jericho. And then episode 11 was entitled, They Turned His Heart Away. So now we're going from going into the promised land. We go all the way from there through Solomon. So that's a long period because that's all the time of the judges during the David being king, the kingdom of Israel, and then Solomon following him. And then after Solomon, we get into the period of the divided kingdom. So episode 11 is like 970 to 930 BCE, which is Solomon up to the divided kingdom.
Okay.
And then episode 12 is a redeemer, what a concept, which is the divided kingdom, the prophets, and the exile. And do you know what we're talking about when we say the exile?
I'm supposed to remember that. Exile has to do with the
Do you know what I mean when I'm talking about the divided kingdom? Okay.
I'm remembering it. There were tribes, right? Do you know who
Solomon is?
Yeah, he was king.
And who was his dad?
Saul, right? No. King David.
Yes.
David was his dad.
And so there's all the stories about Saul and David being chased by Saul, and then David becomes king, and then there's the story of David and Bathsheba, and David had all these wives, and then Solomon's mother is actually Bathsheba.
Solomon was the one, toward the end of his reign and life, he kind of strayed, didn't he?
That's why we titled the episode, They Turned His Heart Away. He married a bunch of women and followed their foreign gods.
I thought that was the weak eyes. For some reason, I thought
followed his. So, therefore, God says, your children will not inherit the kingdom. And because y'all refuse to be obedient to me, to have me as your only God, therefore, I'm going to expel you out of the land. But the first thing that happens is the kingdom's divided. But that's when the prophets show up. So the divided kingdom. So what was one kingdom of the Israeli people, of the children. So Jacob's name is changed to Israel. Mm-hmm. So it's one people of the children of Israel. There's 12 tribes. They're divided in 10 tribes become the northern kingdom, and their headquarters is in
their headquarters.
Samaria. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's their land. And then the southern kingdom is the kingdom of Israel, which is the tribe of Judah and of Benjamin, and Jerusalem is the capital of that kingdom. So when we enter the period of the divided kingdom, which happens in episode 12, this is the era of the prophets. And here we explain how the prophets served as God's mouthpiece to both the kings and the people during the divided kingdom. They outline, so there's major and minor prophets, which we talk about just a little bit, but the episode explores the prophetic message, the two parts of the prophetic message, which is judgment, warning Israel and Judah out of the exile if they didn't repent, that would happen, and hope, pointing toward the future Messiah, Redeemer. So we entitled that Redeemer, What a Concept, because that's the first time that this overt discussion of a Messiah starts coming about in these prophets. So if you're looking at your Bible and you've got all these chapters you've got all these books in your Bible, when you get to all of those prophets, that's all during the time of the divided kingdom.
Gotcha.
So it's history: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, 1st and 2nd Samuel. Then we get to 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. They're both writing about the same part of history. Joshua, Judges, and Ruth also happening in places in history. But then as you go on from there, it's more like wisdom literature, and the prophets take place back in that divided kingdom. As a Christian believer, so this is where the history through the eyes of faith comes in. Mm-hmm. As a Christian believer, we believe that God created us in his image and wants us to be in relationship with him. So therefore, we start history at the stories that have been given to us, we believe, by God about that creation, and move up through there following his relationship with his people. And when I say his people, I mean specifically the people he called out as his people, mm-hmm. the Jews, but also we know now as Christians, which we're not to that part of the story yet in our recap, that's everybody that he loves and wants to know all of us. Okay. So we're following mm-hmm. his revelation through
us
history.
Gentiles.
Yes, non-Jews, Gentiles, right? So this period of the divided kingdom, when there's the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, is 931.
The Lannisters.
931 to 586 BC. Mm-hmm. So we are now in like we mentioned it in some of the episodes before this, but there's a lot of written history taking place. Not a lot, some written history taking place in the world at this time.
Outside of the Bible literature.
Absolutely. Like one of the things we get to, okay, so this is where it really intersects. Well, it intersects during the period of Egypt when Joshua's down there. I mean, Joseph's down there, and then they leave Egypt. There's some evidence about we have history about what's going on in Egypt in that time and that kind of things. But right here during the divided kingdom is where we step in and talk about the Babylonian Empire, and then the Assyrian Empire, and then the Babylonian Empire, and then the Persian Empire, because mm-hmm. Assyria takes over the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom, the terminology we use, falls to Assyria, and then the southern kingdom falls to Babylon. But Babylon has also taken over Assyria, so that's all really one thing. Mm-hmm. And then Persia comes and takes care of both of those, takes mm-hmm. over both of them. Mm-hmm. And it's during when the southern kingdom falls to Babylon, then all of the Jewish people, the vast majority of them, and certainly the leadership and the ruling class, as we would say, is in exile. They're physically taken away. Mm-hmm. Listen to the episodes to hear about how all that goes down. But then when Persia takes Babylon, that leaves these Jewish leaders, authorities, people with prominent position in a Jewish community in exile in Babylon. Persia is now over all of that, and Cyrus is one of the kings and the next of Persia. So episode 13 is Cyrus got his spirit stirred. God stirs Cyrus' spirit to allow them to go back and build a temple. This is from 586 to 397 BC. Again, this is during that, they're calling that the same period. And then episode 14. So that's Zerubbabel returning and laying the temple foundation. Okay. And the story of Cyrus and all that's episode 13. Episode 14 is called A Side of Kadesh. And Frank.
I would like a side of Kadesh.
Yes, that's what you said you did.
Mm-hmm.
We spent some time here reflecting on the purpose of history, and we review everything to this point. And
that was 14. Episode 14.
We introduced the Battle of Kadesh, which is in 1274 BC, which is interesting because they've dated those. Anyway, that's interesting. Between the Egypt and the Hittites, the largest chariot battle. So we go back to actual history and stick that back into our story, and we talk about that. And then so
episode 14 might be a good place
to go if you want a summary. I've told people early on when we were recording, I'm like, go check out 14. It summarizes to that point, talks about inserting that battle there.
Gotcha.
Then episode 15, we're now at the end of the Old Testament. So episode 15 is now.
This is good for me. Somebody asked me about the podcast. I'm like, well, we start at the beginning and it takes about 15 episodes. We get through the Old Testament.
Right. Yeah. Then in episode 15, now we're thinking. This is exploring the Greek city-state and the philosophers and the Greek battle against Persia in 479. So these are the 5th and 4th century. So as
BC.
BCE or BC, whichever way you want to go. Then episode 16 is Bill Shatner and Batman. And the reason we named it that was because we talked about Alexander the Great. You found some pop reference where Shatner played Alexander or something like that.
Yeah.
But episode 16 is about Alexander Great.
And what was the actor's name that was the original Batman? What was his name?
If you said it, I would know. But
Adam West.
Adam West, yes.
Simple. So Adam West must have been in there somewhere. That's why I said Bill Shatner and Batman.
Yeah, probably. We were doing that. But anyway,
Adam West might have been in that Alexander the Great too.
Yes,
I don't know.
We played. I don't know, but I
was doing a lot of pop culture. I don't do that as much as I was. We got some Bigfoot happening though.
Yes, in this episode, we draw together how we make a point to show how Alexander pulls it all together and how his tutor was Aristotle. Okay.
Yeah.
And how then the Greek language gets spread all throughout pretty much the known world, not in China and the Far East. Yes. And so then episode 17 it's all Greek to me. And this is where we discuss how Greek ideas, art, and language spread across the Mediterranean and Near East, creating a shared culture that shaped cities and daily life. The conversation touches on Greek philosophy, drama, architecture, and science, noting how this intellectual climate influenced later Jewish and Christian thought. We talk about the tension between Hellenization and Jewish distinctiveness. So the story's really starting to meld now because with Christian eyes, we see that God is writing an intro to Jesus through all of that. But particularly now, everybody's speaking the same language. They're in the same thing. And so then episode 18, and to the Republic or Rebellion, this is years 300 to 44. BCE.
Yeah, and
this is where we talk about Rome. We talk about the Apocrypha that was written between the Testaments, and we talk about how Rome moves from being a republic to an empire.
Yeah.
And that was why the title, And to the Republic or the Rebellion.
Now, it's somewhere in here. I think it's 40 BC, 44, or whatever you just said. Between that and year zero, Christ's birth, or however they say it, Common Era, whatever. That where we could talk about Cleopatra and
we're not to her yet,
but it's in that time.
It is right, but we actually have an episode. So episode 18 is the Republic. Episode 19 is Craving Some Maccabees. We talk about the Maccabean Revolt, the beginning of Hanukkah. Okay,
well, I wish we had some Maccabees.
That's 167 to 63. That was the years BC. Episode 20, we have special guests, Dr. Ferris, and goat thongs get mentioned. And that is Month. We talk about the Gregorian calendar and how things get renumbered. And then episode 21 is Cleopatra and the Silk Road. And so we talk about how Cleopatra's involved, Herod the Great.
Silk Road is the trade going back and forth.
Yeah. So now that's year 20 to up until the first century, from 20 BCE to the first century BCE. Episode 22 is Kevin Chesney, which is more about our friend Kevin that travels with us. Mm-hmm. But the episode continues the story of Rome's expansion, beginning with the aftermath of Cleopatra's death and Egypt's full integration into the Roman Empire. We discuss how Rome consolidated its power and controlled key trade routes and became the dominant force around the Mediterranean. We also explore how these political changes affected Judea and set the backdrop for the birth of Jesus. Then in episode 23 is called Fun with Cards, and we review everything to that point.
So episode 14 and 23 would be two good ones to check out.
Yes, and then episode 24 is wrapping up part 1. So
okay, well, which would be a good time to wrap up part 1 of this recap.
Yeah, so this episode pulls together the key themes of part 1, tracing the sweep of history. So really 24 is a good one. The sweep of history from creation through the Hellenistic period. We revisit Alexander the Great's campaigns, his shift from avenging Greece to spreading Hellenic culture, and how his conquest shaped the ancient world. We summarize the rise and fall of empires, the development of Israel's identity, and the ways Greek culture paved the way for the next stage of history. And then episode 25 is Year Zero. And that's a lot about the conditions that prepared the world for the arrival of Jesus.
For the arrival.
Yes.
I thought you said for the arrival of Jesus.
The arrival, not the rival.
Not the rival, but the arrival.
Yeah.
So
there we are through the first 25
what
episodes.
I'm hearing, if we want to, this is a good for video, for a video episode 150.
Yeah.
Check out 14. Check out 24.
And 25.
And 25. That gets you through the Old Testament in a couple of episodes. But
and the time in between.
And the time in between. And you're going to miss some yucks around Game of Thrones or Star Wars.
Or the Ten Commandments.
Which was fun. Episode 8. Which video, we need to recap that for video because we didn't do that on video. There was some kind of hand thing to memorize all 10 commandments.
Yep. And some kind of hand thing is kind of the thing because I don't remember what the thing was.
What was the don't steal?
No other gods.
You got 3 looking at you. It was so dumb. Like this means.
Let's review it.
Mean
we'll bring it back for episode 150, part 2. This is part 1, ending now.
Yeah.
For 150, part 2, we'll bring back the hand motions. We'll review it.
There's hand
while
motions
we take a break,
to memorize
and we'll come back.
The 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Well, we've got part A, episode 150A done. We are going to take some technical changes, get some things fixed. We've got a nice array of buffet of food. We're going to snack. One of our sponsors, Celsius, get you one. And what else do we have to go out on for this?
No, I think that's it.
Oh, one of the things that we didn't talk about before we wrap up is somewhere in the first 25 episodes, there was something in the studio that I'm like, what is in that?
Oh, yeah. It was a piece of foil.
And it was a muffin or something that you were saving. Cinnamon roll. I thought she had brought something special into the studio, but it was a cinnamon roll.
No, I think it just ended up in my backpack after church. Somebody gave it to me.
Anyway, it turned into a bit where we would have things, and guess what? In the studio, we have a mystery bag that I'm seeing here that we're not going to get to this episode, but we'll get to that at some point. So,
all right. Woo.
Do you want to say anything to the camera?
So glad you guys are with us. Yeah.
We'll see it. And then we can both look at that one and go, bye.
It's history through the eyes of faith, where the truth unfolds from the rise of ancient empires through the tales of saints and souls. With every word, with every tale they trace, we see the world's great story